This is a Ben Frank Connection presentation.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the ABJ Podcast. Let me just get that out of the way right now because we did it towards the end of last episode. Now in conjunction with the Ben Frank Connection. If you're wondering what that is the new podcast team of the ABJ Podcast and the Opinion City Podcast. Those guys are out of half of them are, one half is from Philly, the other half is from New Jersey. We don't judge them from being New Jersey. We still accept them. But the reason why we're called the Ben Frank Connection, because what brings us together is the Ben Franklin Bridge. Beautiful. What a great analogy. We are looking for other podcasts to join our network if you guys want to come and join the team. The only requirement is if you're going to be part of this team, one of the biggest things is you got to have love for the independent wrestling scene. You can't be one of these guys who show up at the indie wrestling show because the former guy from WWE is there and you want to rub elbows and you think your next guest is going to get you to the top. No, we're growing with the indie scene. We want to be a part of the indie scene. So if you want to be part of this network, you got to be on the same page. So come and join us at the Ben Frank Connection if you think you have what it takes or you think you have the same heart and passion as we do, because that's what we're all about on our end. If you have any, if you want to contact myself or follow on social media or support, the links are below for merchandise, t-shirts. A whole bunch of new t-shirts are always dropping. You can come hang out with me on the Discord, or as we like to call it, the Cult of ABJ. So come and hang out with us on the Discord, as well as all that fun stuff. And check out the links below for my guests, whether it be merch pages, social media, or where you can find them and support them as they progress in their journey. So without further ado, let me bring in my guest. Super excited for this one. We met a while back. Actually, there was a 2-day thing. We recorded heavyweights as well as frog sport, or I believe in the same weekend. And it was my trial run into behind the scenes. I didn't do commentary at the time. I literally brought a trunk full of podcast equipment and said, if any of this can help out the show, let's use it. And it all became cameras and hard cams and commentary and the whole nine. And that's how I jumped into this business with Camp Leapfrog. And one of the people who were the star of that night was my guest here. And I'm sure we'll get into that performance a little bit. So without further ado, let me bring them in. Max Zero. What's going on?
I was on both those shows.
Yes.
That was a long weekend.
No, it was a very long. The craziest part about that was they said, we want to get the show recorded and today and uploaded to IWTV or Facebook tonight. And I said, I don't know how we're going to do that. The only way I can think of doing it is recording it through StreamYard as if we're doing a stream. And then it saves it as an MP4, which is way easier to upload to a file than trying to edit the video, render it, and getting it done within 2 hours to have it ready. And we were crunching to get it uploaded as a file. And it was one take. There was no messing up. There was no cuts. There was no breaks. It had to be done in one shot. And the rain was coming. It was about to start pouring. And it was like, we are on a deadline, and we got it done, and everyone's seen it. And I think now when you watch heavyweights, they added the roving cams in, but when you first watched it that night, it was only hard cam.
Oh yeah, I think that's
Yeah, and there was a spot where everyone did a dive towards a hard cam where the camera and everything was set up, and if one wire gets bumped or something because we were stacked on D&D books and cinder blocks, it would have shut down and we're like, everyone back up. It was great. We were sweating bullets, but we got it done. But you wrestled that night, and you were unmasked at that show.
Was it
I believe it was I thought it was heavyweights.
No, I think I wrestled Devontae's on heavyweights. I think it was the show. That was the first show that I wrestled without my mask. But
yes. The show before that was
versus Blank.
Was that a Camper's Choice?
Yes, that was Camper's Choice.
Yes.
For some reason, they picked 2 out of 3 falls for me versus me versus blank.
Yes, which was a fantastic match. And it was a crazy dive spot in that match that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I remember being on the other side of the ring and I'm like, he's dead. They're dead. It's over.
Hey, it sold you that moment, right?
So let's kind of get into it. You donned a mask. You were Max Zero, right? Under the mask. The name didn't change. Just covering up, for some reason, covering up this gorgeous thing you got going on here, which would end up becoming like a personality trait for your character. You then became Handsome Max Zero.
Yeah, I started out as just Zero, but the problem was so many people kept coming up to me under the mask and was like, "Hey, Max." I was like, "All right, so it looks like it's Max Zero now." Like,
so you were donned the mask and the character. Now, the history is there's a character on that was on Shikara that was your father figure, and then you were donned the mask. Can you walk us a little bit towards that storyline, or how that was birthed or given to you?
So I was given like kind of the week prior to the show, like just kind of be like, "Hey, do you know who this character is?" And I got shown like a picture of Mr. Zero, and I was like, "I have no idea." So at that point, like I wasn't like super into the indie scene. Like I had just started training like 6 months prior, and like I hadn't really gotten into like the old Chikara because Mr. Zero is like a season one season. Like I think he like went from season 1 to like season 8 of Chikara, and it was like some old Chikara. So like I was like, I have no idea who this is. So I had to watch a bunch of old Mr. Zero matches and be like, okay, so they want me to do this. But yeah, and then I got that mask like the day of the debut, when I like walked out the curtain, and it was me, like Mobius, and then I forget and then Jigsaw. And it was really funny because like a lot of the stuff about my character, like the way I was presented originally, isn't much different from like OG Mr. Zero. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of people in the crowd who just thought I was like Mr. Zero brought back. It was like, oh, they brought back Jigsaw and Mobius. Like this must be OG Mr. Zero. And if you've ever seen Mr. Zero wrestler, he's not I'm rather tall. Mr. Zero is a little bit on the shorter side. So it was just it was very funny to me that people were like, yeah, he got taller.
He had that special fountain. I'm gonna remove your camera real quick and bring you back in. There is a little bit of a lag delay. I don't know. StreamYard's been doing this crazy to me. I'm just gonna try it real fast. See if that works. I think so. I think we're good. Let's try it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you went into training and going through everything, you've never trained or got ready or did anything with a mask on, and then the night of your day like that, you're just like, hey, put a mask on, go wrestle?
No, I heard at like King of Trios that I was going to be put under the mask, but I had no idea what the idea was. I had no idea about any of this like Mr. Zero stuff. So yeah, they just were like, here, Max, you can do this, like wrestle in a mask. And I was like, this is hard. This is bad. Like, this is fun.
That mask didn't have a lot of breathing room in it. Like there was no, I believe if I'm not mistaken, it was closed mouth, right?
No, I had an open mouth. I was actually one of the lucky ones. I actually had like a mesh mouth.
Okay, so it was mesh, yeah.
I didn't have like a rough time like any of the ants or like Edith did with Edith's original mask, or like I actually had like a mesh mouth that I was able to breathe through, so it wasn't too terrible.
What was some of the pros or cons of that mask of the time you were wearing it?
A lot of the pros was it's a fun mask. Like it's just a fun looking mask. Like I enjoy that. The cons were that it was heavy. Like that was like it has a full head of hair attached to it. It has sideburns, it has eyebrows, and it's just a thick mask that was so hot. I remember after one match, like I took it off and I had like that football player, like Friday Night Lights thing happening where I took off my mask and like you just see the steam.
coming off your head.
off my head because of how hot like the mask was. And I was like, great, thanks. Oh, and I get to wrestle in slacks and a button up. Like, I'm having a great
time. So when you're wearing the mask, like that mask was then given to you, but like, is there extra step you have to do with your gear? Like obviously washing your gear is important. Now you have to wash a mask as well. I mean, a lot of times too, they would say like the old, lucky you didn't have like a Vader situation or a Mankind where it was leather and it would soak in sweat and stink. But was the mask something you're like, all right, after every show I have to make sure to take care of this because I don't want to put a stinky mask back on my head?
I would like wipe down the inside and like Febreze it. Like I would Febreze that thing every time. And then when I would store it, I would have like dryer sheets in it. Like just to try and get it like because that mask was a lot. Like I had to comb it. Like, it was a lot of stuff.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So you take the mask off, you win your match, and the stipulation is winner loses their mask, which is which was a different take. You lose the mask, it goes out to the world, and the fans kind of lost their minds. The term "handsome Max" and why is and that was kind of the joke. It was kind of a joke that was talked about on this podcast for so many times. Is like you're at a show and then everyone shows up and they're not in masks, or if you're me and never seen these people before, and you're like, oh, look at these people. Like wrestling's got good looking people. It's definitely a good industry to be in for good looking people. And then you're like, why are you wearing a mask? Like, what are you doing? Like, the world sees you without a mask, and they lose their shit.
I will reiterate this to every person listening. Every masked wrestler that you like is attractive.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yep.
We are a very attractive group of people.
How did you take that internet buzz after it all was said and done?
It was very weird because I've never thought of myself as like a particularly like handsome individual. And like I was like, oh, I'm gonna take it off. It's gonna be fine. Like they're gonna like I'm just gonna be another wrestler. I'm gonna be another guy who wrestles in like whatever gear I was thinking of at the time because I change my gear ideas every time. But like it was very heartwarming that people were like, oh no, he's hot. Because it wasn't a response that I was expecting. I'm sure like subjectively like everyone else in the world was like, of course they had that response. But to me I was just kind of like, oh, this is fun and new.
Yeah. And then you got to showcase the mask at heavyweights, and then at Frog Sport, I believe Frog Sport, you had a black eye. Because
I had a full black eye.
And which worked too, because then you're like the rugged handsome Max. But you kept a business top for a while. Like you still had like the slacks and the stuff, and then you kind of evolved over the years. Taking the mask off and then kind of finding yourself as a performer, as a talent, what has changed since the mask, losing it, and then to where you are now?
I felt like when I was masked, like I had to do a specific like style of wrestling. Like it like at the very Chikara wrestling, which isn't a bad thing. Like I love that type of wrestling, but it felt very like I was made for a kid-friendly product. Like, and that's what it felt like a lot of time. It was like, I'm a wrestler, but I'm a wrestler who does the wrestling for all ages, and like, I can't do like the scary stuff. Like, I have to do like the fun stuff. Like, I always had struggled with finding like shtick for Zero when I was masked. Like finding something that's like, oh, this is fun. Like, how do I tie business into my wrestling?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I always struggled with that. So it was very nice to take the mask off and kind of just go, because the whole time when I asked like, what character do you want for Zero? I got told 2000s All Japan, which for you keen listeners might be able to pick up is not a character. It is a style of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I watched a lot of All Japan from early 2000s. I watched a lot of Dragon Gate early 2000s. I watched a lot of like Enochiism and that sort of stuff. And it's kind of interesting to try and make that stuff into something that's more kid friendly, because if you guys don't know All Japan 2000, they would just beat. Can I curse?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they just would beat the shit out of each other. They would
That's why Eddie
straight
Kingston
stand
loves
and-
that era of wrestling so much.
Oh yeah, Eddie Kingston loves that era, and it's just like Stan Hansen and the Four Pillars, like being like, how hard can I hit my opponent today? And like, it's just like, okay, how do I make this like into a family friendly affair? It's like, I don't have to worry about that. Now that I'm unmasked and I don't feel as restrained to be kind of a family. Like, I love family friendly stuff and I love being silly, but like, it's nice that I can also do like the style of wrestling I like,
Mm-hmm.
which is that All Japan, like big meaty guys hitting each other.
What your style you present now, or a character, or what you're doing, is there anything that you channel, like maybe a favorite wrestler or someone that you admire when you bring in? Because you have like the big guy mentality. You're very, very strong. Some of the craziest feats of strength on the independent wrestling scene have all come from you, in my opinion. Like, I just, even sitting with the rest of the talent, like at merge tables, when you're out there, you're like, holy shit, they just picked him up from the ground, from a deadlift to a gorilla. Like, how do you, like, how does, like, you're yeah, like, it's just
Wrestlers, it's a lot of like people who are also strong guys that I love watching. Like Jeff Cobb was one of the first people who I loved watching. I still love watching Jeff. It's a lot of those All Japan guys, so like Kobashi and like Stan Hansen's another one. Like just the BB Hulk when he became like a bigger guy. Because like I was watching one of his matches today where he's like in his smaller form. Just the insane stuff like he would do. But yeah, a lot of Samoa Joe, a lot of like Chris Hero.
You know who I pull a lot from you when I watch you wrestle? And we kind of talked about off camera, as one of my favorite guys. I see a lot of Brody in you. Yeah, because like you can be very like, I'm sophisticated, but then you could all be like, you could become a wild man and you'll just kill everyone in front of you. And and like your presence when you're in the ring and you're performing, you have a presence of like, you should fucking fear me right now. And if you don't, you're going to have a problem. Like,
not as scared as you should be.
Yes. Yeah. And Brody always had that take, is like when he hit the curtain, like business is picked up right now because Brody has hit the curtain. When you get like, you are dead, like you are going to die if you don't run, or like, and that's kind of the presence that you've always brought to the table as Max Zero.
You've made a mistake.
Yes. If you're booked across from Max Zero, you're having a bad day.
It's one of those things, because it's also like I love that aspect, and then I also love the fact that I do the Kurt Angle like goofy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, yeah, one of the things I've always tried to say when I'm thinking about Max Zero stuff is like, Max is allowed to be goofy because he's absolutely terrifying. Like, I'm allowed to say dumb shit because what are you gonna do? Like, you're gonna wrestle? You're gonna get in a chop fight with me? like this silly stuff happens because internally Max is always like, I like, good. If you say something, I get to fight you. If you don't say something, like, cool.
Yeah,
like that
bell's already ringing.
Max Zero tells that. Yeah, that he is terrifying. Like, you should not want to be in that ring.
So when you kind of like to backtrack a little bit here, when is your earliest memory, or when did you fall in love with professional wrestling?
I know the exact answer to this. So I'm a baby when it comes to wrestling. I started watching wrestling. I don't remember the year now. Now that I said, I remember exactly. But I do know the match. It was CM Punk versus John Cena at Money in the Bank. My brain works today. But, Money in the Bank, that match, because like I'd always like kind of like, I had a bunch of friends who watched wrestling, and they're like, you should watch the pay-per-view, and I was like, okay, whatever, I'll watch it. And I did, and I was absolutely blown away by it. And then I got into wrestling. My one friend was an old school 80s fan. And he was like, here, I'll lend you some of my DVDs. And I was like, wow, this is less interesting, but still cool.
Yeah.
Because like he gave, I don't know why he did this to me, but he gave me like whatever WrestleMania is, the one where Ultimate Warrior fights Hogan.
Okay.
And it's just like one of those manias that no one remembers other than the fact that like,
Other than the main event.
other than the main event, and even then the main event is like real not good.
Yeah.
But like you know what, get in the comments. Like, without looking it up, name me one other match that happens in that WrestleMania. I'm not even going to give you the number.
I can't.
I'm not going to give you the number, listeners.
But if BP was here, BP's probably listening at home and he knows the entire card front to back.
I need you to tell me what was one other match that happened on the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, the Tower, whatever it was, the Mega Power.
The immovable force meets the no, that was Hogan. That was the build for Hogan and Andre. Oh shit, I forget the name of they called it. I forget. I'm sure Savage wrestled on it, right? Macho Man had to be on it.
Yeah, had to have been. Right? It's that time period. Hold on.
Yeah.
I don't even know what WrestleMania it is.
Let's say 6 or 5.
It was 6. What's on this
6.
card? Why are there so many matches on this card?
Oh, well, WrestleMania, because that WrestleMania, I think WrestleMania 4 is when they tried the 3-day thing, right? When they had it in 3 different venues or 3 different locations.
We've been too harsh on modern day WrestleMania, being like they're too long. There's 15 matches. Like you're right, there's one match that goes. There's 2 matches that go above 10 minutes.
Yeah,
but like there's 15 matches on this card. 15.
Who was a celebrity? Does it say the celebrity that showed up?
I don't know.
For Mania 6?
I'm still blown away.
Is
this the WrestleMania where Roddy Piper did a racism?
Were he blackfaced?
Yeah, is this
it might have been. It might be.
Yeah, it's Roddy Piper versus Bad News Brown.
Yep. Yeah.
What a fun. I feel like that's going to be the answer because that's the only other memorable thing. I'm like looking at the card.
I think that they took that match off of the network. I don't think it's on the network.
Good.
Yeah, but the crazy thing is for how much Piper played the race stuff in wrestling, he was a man of the people. Like he liked all people, but that was just the character. Dude, I watched his documentary. He went to Mexico and said that he's going to play the Mexican national anthem for Guerrero, and he played La Cucaracha on a bagpipe. Like he toed the line a lot. Like Piper would not have been able to last in today's wrestling society.
I would give money to anyone who could remember that Earthquake defeated Hercules on this card without looking it up. If someone was like, yeah, that's where that awesome Earthquake versus Hercules match happened.
Wow.
Like
they got 4 minutes and 52 seconds too. I just pulled it up as well. Dusty and Sapphire with Miss Elizabeth beat Randy Savage and Queen Sherry. That's what I remember. Savage. I was going to say Savage was definitely on there.
That is such a weird. Oh my god.
How about Hogan and Dino Bravo? And Earthquake comes back out to the ring as a manager with Jimmy Hart.
Ted DiBiase versus Jake Robert. There's like 4 countouts on this. But
yeah.
There's like 4 matches that you would like to. There's like 2 matches you would like to see, and they both ended in countouts.
Yep. Yeah. So you watched that, and was it from then on you were just absolutely hooked?
Yeah, because I did wrestling in college. I was a 4-year starter at Lycoming College at heavyweight, and then I just sort of watched from then on. I kind of hate watched TNA at that time because that was the time when TNA was like aggressive. The fun period of TNA before went from the time when they became Total Nonstop Action to before Aces and Eights is when I watched TNA. So like the absolute like worst
time to be a TNA fan
of wrestling ever.
And now TNA is really exciting to watch. Like I'm actually excited for the rebirth of TNA.
I watched Hard to Kill. It was fun.
Yeah.
But it's just like this period was like, I need a weekly TV, so I'd watch the Raws and I'd watch SmackDown and I'd watch TNA, and I was just like, God, it was like a palate cleanser. It's like, you think wrestling's bad now? Like, go back and watch what was it? Like Hulk Hogan gives like Abyss like his like Hall of Fame ring, and that gives him superpowers.
Yeah,
like it's really not great. But, like,
yeah. Now
nice
you said you wrestled in school. Were you was that the only sport you were into? Were you all around in other sports? Did you do theater? Was there anything else that kind of prepped you for the life of wrestling that kind of got you those baby steps?
For 2 years in college, I did theater, and then I was a techie for the rest of the time because I started doing wrestling in my junior year of high school, and I did that, and then I immediately beat R220. Like I had never wrestled before, but I played football. Like all 4 years of high school, I played football. Like junior year of high school, I'm like, I'm gonna go do wrestling because it could be fun. Who knows? And like I just end up becoming really good at like amateur style wrestling. And like
was strength always a thing you had, or was that something that came later?
It was always a pretty big thing I had. Like I was always fairly strong. The only like fun story with wrestling I have is I once beat a guy by simply like breaking his will.
Just
like,
ragdolling him.
Oh yeah, like I kept like letting him up just so I could like pick him up and slam him down. And at one point he stopped doing that and let me like pin him.
He's like, "Yo, I'm done, man."
Yeah, I must have done it like 10 times.
He was like talking. He's like, "Just pin me, just pin me."
Yeah, he kept getting to his feet, and I would let him to his feet because like he would just like let me throw him, and I was just like, okay, like here's where we're going, and like.
Now, what do you think you attribute your strength to? Were you like, were you always just like a strong kid? Was it something you worked at? Was it just good genetics?
I think a little bit of everything. Like I'm a farm boy, so like I was
gonna say, were you a farm kid? Because you look like a hay bale thrower.
My first job, I was a stable boy, and then I was doing horses and that sort of fun stuff. So like yeah, I just always was like fairly strong. Like I'm a big guy, and like I always did sports. I was just a big, strong guy. Like
what position in football did you play?
I played defensive end. I played defensive tackle and defensive end.
Did you lead the league? Led you lead in sacks?
No, I was strong side end. So what my job was to block up as many blockers as I could to let everyone else through. And I was fairly good at that because there were some points when I would have like 3 people on me. And they were just like, we need to figure out how to block this big guy. So like they would just like crash people into me.
Mm-hmm.
Like just because they were like, oh, like we can't like stop this one guy. Like just keep crashing people in.
Now, coming from a world of a defensive lineman, which hearsay, like that's just head-to-head combat for 15 minutes, 4 quarters apart, wrestling, which is the craziest cardio you'll ever do in your life. Then going into the world of professional wrestling and training, did you come in somewhat prepared? Was it a shock to you? Did you take was it natural to you? Were you shocked of how difficult it was that you weren't expecting? Like how did it feel your first couple training sessions?
So I went to like one of those like free, like cause if you ever want to get into wrestling, kiddos, there's some schools that do like a free seminar day.
Everyone cashes in on every episode so far. Everyone cashes in that Chikara free day.
Oh yeah, I cashed it. And like I was kind of blown away because I was like, I didn't think it'd be like this is going to make me sound so fucking annoying. I thought it was easy. Like the day we did, like they were like, oh, it's gonna be a hard day. We're really gonna work you out, and I was like, I feel pretty good. Like I'm doing pretty good. Like can we keep going? And like I just liked it. Like I just had a lot of fun. Like I didn't get like deterred by like the physical stuff. I was like, yeah, this is fun. That's like, why are we not doing this more?
Anyone in your first class that's still I almost said still with us, like they all die if they quit.
They're all
like,
dead. Sadly, they're all dead.
They all trained with you.
Sadly, all dead. Tragic training accident. They're all dead.
Who were some of the people who had a hand at you in your early days of training?
I dealt with a lot of Ophidian, who is an old Chikara guy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Hollow Wicked. I did some Fire Orange Cassidy classes as well. I was in that weird period of Chikara where like a lot of the people who like are super known from Chikara were like already like off doing the big things. So like I had a lot of people like my trainers were like Ophidian and like Sonny Defarge and like I did a couple Travis classes because I was like I came in that time where Travis was becoming a trainer. So like I did a couple of his classes as well. But like yeah, those were the people who really like I spent a lot of time with. So like I was in classes with like Danger Hawk and like Razor and at the time Molly McCoy and at the time Boomer Hatfield, the Ants. Like I was in like that kind of Pancakes and Abby were in my class as well as the Spoiler. Yeah, I was in with like a lot of that kind of group.
Yeah. Now, when you come in as big as you are and as strong as you are, and it's a more predominantly a lucha school, they probably loved you as a base guy, right? Like, oh, this big guy, he's literally going to be our monkey bars. For
so much lucha. Just like doing lucha, like just like going there and just being like, we're going to launch ourselves off of Max, and I'm like, oh, thank you, I know how to do this. Like,
yeah, that was you're like you walked in, you're like, yes, this is gonna be great.
But it was also fun because like my strength came and helped because like everyone does the same drills, so they're like, oh, big calyx, you need to do like head scissors. It's like I'm like, okay, I know where this is going.
Yeah,
like
you just start getting in the ring.
I'm like, okay, I got
you. So, debuting, finally getting your debut. What were the nerves like? Were you excited, nervous?
It was because like my first debut, I literally just went out there and like stood there and then crawled around with Jet Chikori. Like that's what I did. Like I literally just like took Jet and like threw him and then like he punched me and like that was my debut. It was literally just like brawling with Jet Chikori. And then my first match would have been like Young Lions Cup, which I was lucky. I was just in a group of fun people. Like my section of Young Lions Cup, we were just like, what if we just did whatever the fuck we wanted? Like, what if we just had fun here? Because it was me, it was Erica Lehigh, it was Oswald Project, and it's this guy from Spain whose name is Matt Stryker. And like we're just like, what if we just like had a blast? And we just had this funny like 4-way match. Because everyone else was like, we're gonna do like dives and stuff. Like we got all this stuff planned. And we're just like, we're gonna have a fun time. Like, we're just gonna do nonsense.
So you start finding. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. A little bit of delay there.
We also did like rehearsals for that. So like we like had like, okay, just like run through your match quick, like at half speed, and like we did, and they were like, cool, yeah. So like I'd already run through the match, so I didn't have like a ton of like nerves off of my first match.
Yeah. When you're I think the nerves thing is big, but I think once you come from like a world of sports and stuff, like wrestling in front of a crowd is one thing, but when it comes to like, I feel if you have that sports mentality, it's kind of like, no, this is just game day. This is the time where you have to kind of like put it together. And I feel like that helps, like just kind of talking to people and then hearing the ones who never played sports that got into wrestling because they liked wrestling, or the ones who were theater kids that then like, the physical aspect was hard, but like maybe the sports people had a hard time grasping the character side of things. So it's like, it's almost like when you're putting your attribute points in your character, it's like, well, I'm really good here, but I'm gonna struggle there.
Really good
which
here.
Yeah. Where do you think maybe was your struggling point where you had the physical side thing and everything else was good, but maybe that one aspect, or even still to this day, that you're still kind of working on to better yourself in?
I think character stuff is a big thing I struggled with early on because like I said, I didn't really get like a thing that's like, here's who we want Zero to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's your character. And that's just like, I just had to figure that out. like on the fly. So
Was it hard removing the mask and then doing more facial expressions and emoting because it wasn't something you had to do with a mask on?
Funny opposite side of that as well. I had a big trouble once I took my mask off of remembering I have to like emote, like I did a lot of hand talking because my mask fully covers my face. So I got very good at like I'm looking directly at the camera and like not really like doing anything with my eyes and stuff. I'm just saying my lines and like talking. And like I got really good at like doing that where I'm just like, I'm in the mask, so like I don't have to emote as much. Like I just have to look like I have to move like I'm emoting. So I would do that, but then my face wouldn't change. So I had to like teach myself how to do that once I lost the mask. It was like a really big like big emotions. Like it's very easy to do big emotions under the mask because like you just gotta like yell out the big emotion and say stuff. Like you don't have to do as much like character work with your face.
Yeah.
But like I did it and it was just like, oh, like I need to work.
You're like dead eyes talking.
Yeah, it's like hi, Zero here. And it's like Max, you gotta actually have some type of emotion. I'm like, we'll agree to disagree.
Yeah. So you start to find yourself as a character. Things are kind of getting put together for you. You're figuring yourself out. Chikara ends. Pandemic happens. Camp Leapfrog comes during this pandemic. You now decide you're going to change up your character. You're going to take the mask off. And then you have a run here at Camp Leapfrog where you really get to dive into your character. How important was that time at Camp Leapfrog of really finding yourself and working these matches and starting the rivalry with Cece, who's essentially rebirthing himself as well? And kind of just like in a group of people who all had to change and they lost their home and they're like, Camp Leapfrog is more than just a promotion. I try to tell people this when please go watch it. High Tension Wrestling on YouTube. It's all there. It's all free. But it was a place where a bunch of people lost their home, had to find a new home, but also refine themselves as people and bond and come together as people and be there as a family. But then also on the character side of things, find themselves as characters again.
Yeah, like find yourself outside. It helped a lot in the sense that like I don't know if he would ever remember this, but Effie was the one who put out the idea that I should like lose the mask or like we should build towards it because it was always kind of like we had never set he was on the Valentine's Day show. I don't remember. Love Frog.
Yeah,
he was on Love Frog where he
which is one of my favorite matches that can't believe Effie versus Edith Surreal was unfucking believable. Edith has bangers at Camp Leapfrog. Edith Effie, Edith Masha in the Soviet death match. Like
the Soviet match.
Oh my god.
Fantastic. He planned to, because like originally it was just like we were gonna have it was me versus CC Boost in a feud. We didn't add the mask aspect until like because we were kind of like mulling it over, trying to figure out if we wanted to do it. And then Effie was like, "Oh, if you take your mask off, like they're not gonna know what to do with you. Like you're very handsome." Like he kind of like lit that spark where it's like, "Okay, we're gonna do this." Like,
yeah, if Effie says take the mask off, you're handsome. You do what Effie.
Oh yeah,
you listen to Daddy.
Listen to what Effie has to say. Like we're gonna do that.
He has a good take on wrestling.
He has great takes on wrestling. It's just like that molded over, and then it was like, okay, now I need to figure out like what is Zero's character, and like from the beginning, I feel like Zero's character hasn't changed a ton. He's always been kind of like the way I describe him right now is that he is the Ken of wrestling. He's just good. He's good at wrestling. Like he's good at stuff. Like that's Max Zero. Max Zero's out here. He wants to fight you. My camera just fell. There we are. Where are we at?
You're good.
Like Max Zero just really wants to fight you. Like he is, and that's what he does. Like he enjoys fighting. He's a silly little goofball. But yeah, he's just and ever since the beginning, I kind of was like I took that aspect of not being told what my character was, and I really went, oh, that means I can do whatever I want. Ever since then, I've kind of just made Zero like a character who could do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Like, he's weird. Like, he's a weird.
They never put the restrictor plate on you, so you're just able to go out
put
there.
the restrictor plate on me. They were always just like, do whatever you want. And now I'm like, great. I'm going to murder CC Boost. Is that cool with everyone? Like, that's really like what he's built on. Is like he's just a guy who wants to do what he wants to do.
Why CC? Why did you guys like? What put this together for you? What made this a thing?
Have you met CC?
I have. Yes.
Have you met him? I don't remember like the inside baseball reason. I remember we had an idea where we were going to start. Originally, we were going to start a faction that was me, CC, Molly, Boomer, Matt Mikowski, and Athramata. And that was going to be a faction in Leapfrog. And we told someone about that, and they went, cool. And somehow that morphed into me versus CC.
I listened to that stable, and I'm like, who's beating that stable? That that is God mode stable.
Yeah, we were like, we're going to make this because because during the pandemic we all played. Matt had a Twitch stream that he would do, and we were all on that Twitch stream. So we were like, let's just make this a stable. And we told someone that, and somehow that morphed into me versus CC, and CC had a group called Drama Club, and that was the name of the stable we were going to make with all of us in it. But like, we don't know what happened. Like, it just kind of was like, okay, we're going to do everything. We're going to like do other things now.
Yeah. Now, kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit here. You and CC start your rivalry. Once again, go back and watch on Camp Leapfrog. It sometimes, as someone who was part of production, then joined the commentary team and stuff, I always loved that style and that like, oh, people just go out there and then I became friends with all of you, and I was like, I don't want to see this anymore because I don't want anyone to get hurt. But was there ever a point ever, and I probably know the answer to this because I'm sure there's a match that never happened that's probably still in the works, and I hope to God it never happens. I'm I'm not even gonna say it unless you bring it up. But
I hope it happens.
I don't want it to happen at all because you guys scare the shit out of me. But is there ever a moment where you guys ever say like, "Yo, we might have went too far there," or like have you ever had that conversation, or just like, no, we need to turn it up even higher?
I think there's a point when me and CC look at each other and we go, okay, what can we reasonably do? Like, we're never like we're never gonna try and like legit kill it. Like, we always like go in. It's like, what's the scariest thing we can do that we can do? Like, we're not gonna go in and be like, okay, and then like you just hit me in the head with a baseball bat as harsh again. Like we really like, we're insane, so we're both like, absolutely we can do this. But like, there's never a point when I don't think we've gone too far, like in the stuff that we've done. There's a lot of things that I didn't think were going to work that ended up working.
Yeah.
But like, ultimately, like
the eye patch was cool. You looked really badass in an eye patch.
With the eye patch. I think if we got the match to happen, and I do want something, even if it's not that match, I would like a big blow off because the police ruined our last match.
Yeah.
I would like some type of blow off to that. Like, I would like something. Like, if it's not now,
do you like an old school cage match would do it, or do you think that's not enough? I would love
an old school cage match.
Yeah.
I would love a cage match. I think if we did like a cage match, it would. It's weird because like the escalation of how we've gone, I feel like a cage match would.
It keeps you contained because you guys fight everywhere. The cage match keeps you.
I think you could. I think if you talk to Wild LLC, they'd be like, "Okay, they caused too much property damage, and now the police we need to contain these two." And I feel like we would have a really fun cage match.
It would probably be impossible to find, but imagine if we found like the old school like blue cage style cage.
I love it.
Yeah,
love it so much.
With the big, not even chain link, like the bars, like.
With like our reckless abandon and CC's ability to jump off anything, like I feel like we would just have like an insane little.
I just watched a guy jumped off a cage that the cage looked so unsturdy, and he climbed up and stood on it, and I was like, oh my God, please just jump already. And he's up there posing. I'm like, just jump. It's not sturdy.
It's gonna fall.
Yeah.
It's gonna fall on you.
Yeah, it was wild, but it looked great. It was a great bit. It was a great visual.
Even if it's not now, I would love at some point down the road to do
a cage match.
Do a big blow off match where we actually have like a match that doesn't end with the police getting called,
or hospital trips,
or like me pulling thumbtacks out of my wrist, or like any of that stuff.
Yeah, please, Jesus. I'd rather a cage match than the other style, but I understand why the other style is really appealing.
We've had a lot of fights, and I love fighting CC, so I'm all down for it.
Is there anyone else out there? And I know everyone's like, well, your list or this or that, but is there anyone out there that you're like, okay, this storyline has been very heavy with CC and that, but is there anyone else out there you're like, man, I really want to work them or put an angle with together or a storyline to the magnitude of a CC boost that just really excites you?
It's funny because like a lot of the people when I work at Paradigm, like I wrestle a lot of people. I'm like, these are the guys who I want to wrestle. Like Derek Neal. I would wrestle Derek Neal every day of the week, like and twice on Sunday if given the option to. I love wrestling that man. Is it anyone in the Indies, or do you specifically?
Yeah, anyone in the Indies. Yeah.
Here's my problem. I haven't watched a lot of the Indies recently. Like I've been a bad indie wrestler, and I've not watched my indie wrestling.
My indie wrestling is not that great either. I just got live TV again, so I can watch mainstream wrestling. So my indies has been really rough the past 9 months.
I would love wrestling Rip Bison or like Perry Von Vicious, like any of those guys up at Grind. I really like a lot of them.
You'd eventually have to get your Effie match, right? Like Effie kind of helped create.
I have to get my Effie match, and
yeah.
But yeah, like a lot of those, like, yeah. If the story comes, like, because the CC story wasn't like I don't think we originally were like, we're gonna have you fight CC Boost
for 2 years.
I think it went like they saw that scramble that we had at Love Frog, and we had an angle where CC pulls my mask off. And I think that was supposed to lead to me unmasking, but we liked all that stuff so much that we were like, we're just going to have you and CC wrestle for like forever. Yeah. So
I always liked the idea, and I think I probably pitched it, but the CC thing was too deep that it was never going to go over. But like, only because I feel like if you're going to, someone has to match your crazy, like, and CC matches your crazy. But the only other person in Leapfrog who has that same, like, oh, I'm actually in fear when they wrestle, is Edith. Like when you watch her wrestle, like you're like, is this the end of Edith? Like she is taking on some serious contenders, and Edith Max match is kind of exciting.
I've only wrestled Edith once, and it was in a scramble match. That was like the most insane scramble match of like named people at Leapfrog. It was like me, Edith, Big Game Leroy, and like the big old nerd Big Game Leroy, and Ryan Mooney. It was just like this wild like 4-way match that we had. It was just like, what if we just did the craziest shit? I think it was on the first Halloween show. Like it was like a pre-show match.
Yeah.
And it's like, what if we just did shit? That
was so much fun watching people put together a match, because exactly what you just said. What if we just went out and had fun? And that was really everyone's mind state going into it, and it made magic.
Yeah. Like what if we just went out there and had a grand old time?
Now you said you wrestle a lot in Paradigm. Where can people find that? Is that an IWTV? Is that a
Paradigm
YouTube?
Is on Fight Plus or whatever. It's called something else now. But previously it was Fight Plus. It got bought by somebody,
like Thriller or something.
Yeah, I think it is Thriller. I think it's.
Yeah,
Thriller.
I've subscribed to Fight Plus, so I'm gonna look it up.
All my Paradigm matches are on there.
If you were telling someone to go watch a match from there, what would be one to highlight?
Watch me versus Matt Mikowski.
Sold. Is that recent or is that?
Me versus a dude named Troy Parker, which is coming up on the most. I don't think it's out yet, but it's on or it'll be out when this comes out. Hey,
yeah. It'll be out.
Me versus Troy Parker. Yeah, me versus Troy Parker was a really good one.
Is this pre or post Matt Mikowski?
This is post Matt Mikowski.
So this is like fresh back. Nice.
Yeah, I would watch that if you've never watched Paradigm Pro Wrestling. Watch that show. That's me and that has me and Matt Mikowski on, because that might be the best show since I've been at Paradigm. The best show that they've put on.
Interesting.
Every single one of those matches is so good.
Now, besides the world of professional wrestling, when you're not killing CC Boost or anyone else is in front of you, if he's usually not CC Boost, it always ends up being Pancakes. Poor Pank, he gets flipped like crazy.
Engaged ass piece of shit.
What are some other things that you enjoy doing in your personal life, or are things that excite you?
I read a lot of comics. I read a lot of books too. I'm currently like over 100 hours into Baldur's Gate, so that's
the Baldur's Gate 3. I almost bought it today.
You should buy it. I have too many hours in it.
Is it turn based, or is it like Skyrim-ish where you're in control the whole time?
It's turn based.
Oh, I would hate it.
But for me, I like turn based more than Skyrim.
Yeah, so, I had to be in control of my character. The only turn-based game I can play were the 2 South Park ones. I loved them. I thought they were so much fun, but they were really simple.
It's not turn-based in the sense of like those games are, where it's like the old like Final Fantasy style, but it is turn-based where it's kind of like how a D&D is set up.
Okay.
Where it's like everyone has a turn, and it's like I guess XCOM is a good way.
Okay.
Like you have a bunch of characters and you can move them, and then they all have special things they can do.
Gotcha.
It's like that style more than it is like you're moving like Cloud to be like, hey, Cloud, do the most overrated Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Like, all right, that does 900 damage. Like,
yeah, those games struggle for me. I have a hard time with those. Now you said comics. What are some of your what are you reading? What are some of your pulls every week?
Right now, there's so many good ones. Any of the Superman books right now are really good. Action Comics, the Adventures of Superman book is really good. Also, The World's Finest.
I think the last time I was into Superman was, or I was up to date on my Superman was when they brought there was the New 52, and the New 52 turned into Rebirth, and then there was like 4 Supermans in one universe. There was a and they're all living at the same time. I thought that.
Yeah. Now the Rebirth era is really good, and then it gets bad because they give it to Brian Michael Bendis, who's just like, I'm going to do whatever I want, and what he wanted to do was bad, and you feel bad. You should feel bad for it.
Yeah.
he wrote maybe the worst Superman story in the last like 50 years.
Yikes.
It's so bad. And then we're back on track with Joshua Williams' Superman, which is phenomenal. Also, Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The new Miles Morales series.
Really good.
So good.
I always wait till this runs over, and then I buy the big book of all the stories in one.
As you should. This run is so good. A lot of the X-Men stuff I'm still reading because I'm really enjoying the Krakoa age.
Yeah, I think the last stuff I was reading was I was reading the Superman stuff. Not Superman. Batman. I'm a huge Batman guy. I like Batman. And then what the fuck was I reading? I just started doing the new Daredevil, and then everything, my life turned upside down, so I didn't read anything in a long time. But the new, like the next level of Daredevil, or whatever it was called, I forget.
Oh, I would continue reading that book, because that book by Chip Zdarsky, if I can talk.
Yeah,
it's probably one of the best Daredevil stories ever told.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. It was like on the same level as what's his name, when Frank Miller brought back Daredevil.
Yeah, no, it's really good. But yeah, that's what I've mostly been reading. Like,
so reading, gaming, that's kind of like your home.
Yeah,
home
I
base?
do a lot of D&D stuff. I run a D&D campaign with a bunch of wrestlers, which is always a fun time.
We were gonna do one on our Discord and it never took off. I've never played D&D in my life, and I want to try it just to see like what it's about. But I feel like I would annoy everybody because I don't know if I would take it seriously.
Everyone in half the people, I would say just do it, because like half the people in my group have never played D&D. I think there's one person There's one wrestler in my group who has ever played D&D before. All the rest of them have never played.
Okay.
I have zero idea what's going on. And I have to stop every 5 minutes and be like, this is not how that works.
So I played a game. It's like a Cthulhu game, but it's like a board game. And what's that?
Call of Cthulhu?
I don't think it's called Call of Cthulhu. I think it's called something else. But the premise is like, as the game goes, more and more monsters keep getting spawned onto the board. It's like night of something. I don't know. I forget what it was. I only played it once, but I got the character who's homeless that has a dog, and they're like, yo, play this like D&D, and I was like, I don't know what that means. I've never played. They're like, be your character, and I was like, got you. But also, I'm annoying, and I like to fuck with people, so I realized that you had to collect all the keys, and that's how you win the game.
Yeah.
So I went around and collected the keys, and I didn't fight. But then I was like, they're like, okay, well, you can trade in this game. And once they told me you can trade, and then you have to work together, but also collect the keys, but you're also against each other, but have to work. I was like, oh, bet, no, say less. So I collected the keys and then held them for really high money. Like, I was like, no, you have to give me money for the key. So I hoarded all of the keys, got all the money, and then we died anyway. But in my brain, I won because I'm homeless.
You got all the money.
Yeah, like the one part of the game, they're like, oh, fine, let the monsters kill Tony. They were like feeding me the monsters. Like, no, he's not playing right. Let him die. And I was cornered. But then my character had a thing where you can sacrifice your dog, and it refills your health, and you escape the fight. Dog's gone, and then I survived.
Poor dog.
Listen, you're homeless, man. You gotta do what you gotta do. But I played wrong, but in my brain, I won the game.
Yeah, you won.
Yeah, I won with all the money, and then the world ended. So I died the richest man.
You fell into madness from staring upon the face of Cthulhu, but
yeah.
other than that, like you're doing great.
I'm killing it. So yeah, if I ever get my own my first ever D&D game, I'll message you and tell you how it went. So 2023, crazy year for everybody. I know we're a couple months into the new year, but what would you say was something in 2023 that was good for you, that you excelled in in the industry of pro wrestling, things that you found to be successful, things that you found that you have to work on? Overall, 2023, how was the year for you?
I thought it was pretty good. Like, I wrestled a lot of matches that I didn't wrestle like a ton. Like, I'm not one of those wrestlers who's like, if I don't make 100 matches in a year, like, I'm going to be mad at myself. I'm like, no, I'd much rather have like 30 matches that I'm proud of than like 100 matches where like 50 of them were like whatever matches.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd much rather do like the shows that I want to do and wrestle the people I would want to wrestle and like work for people who I would want to work for, rather than do like I've done like 75 matches. It's like, cool, like that's great, but like I would much rather just have those quality matches and then be allowed to do what I want to do.
Yeah,
like within those matches and have fun. So I had a lot of fun this year just with all the matches I wrestled. I don't know if I'd be able to do a top 10 off the top of my head, but I'd have to look at my thing. But I did have a blast wrestling this year. I started tagging with Travis in Kingsglaive, so that's always a lot of fun. So I started becoming a tag wrestler.
If you prefer that than singles now, you get that little break time, and
I like both. But like, if I could wrestle more with Travis, I would be very happy because I like wrestling.
Travis is so criminally underrated. More people need to know of him, hear of him, be trained by him. He's so talented.
He's one of the best technical wrestlers in the world, and like it's just insane that more people like aren't aware of him.
Yeah,
like, that he's not booked constantly.
Mm-hmm. Now, going into 2024, do you have any goals set for yourself? Or are you kind of just take it as it comes, or do you have any sights, your eyes set on anything?
I would like to officially murder CC Boost. That would be fun.
Put a bookend on that in 2024.
Put a bookend on the CC Boost fight. I would love to win the Paradigm World Championship. I don't know if that's in the books. I mostly just go there and get told, hey, we have someone who you think you'd have a good match with. And then I do.
Who's currently the champion there?
Ronnie. Shooter Ronnie is.
Okay.
Wait. Hold up. Yeah, Rod Mathis is the current champion there. If you haven't seen Rod Mathis wrestle, I highly recommend watching Rod Mathis. He's amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking at the roster or the website now for it. Actually, they don't have a roster. They just show their Project Mayhem. Hope I'm looking at the right. Jordan Blade on the who's that other one? Jordan Blade and okay, yeah. Now it's exclusively on Fight TV. Oh, they have weekly stuff too there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into this. I want to see more of you outside of the High Tension brand. I don't think I've ever seen you outside that brand in a while. So where else can people find you, support you? I know that all the links are below, but let them hear it from you. All the links.
Hi, so you can follow me on Twitter. Nobody's going to call it X. It will always be called Twitter at HandsomeMax0, as well as Instagram at HandsomeMax0. Yeah, those are my two main ones. I have a Brainbuster Tees store, which is also HandsomeMax0, if I remember correctly. And if you just come to an indie show, I wrestle a lot in Indiana, but like come to a High Tension show, come to a Labor of Love show, come to Invictus shows. Like I'm usually around those areas.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time and coming on the podcast and reaching out. When you reached out, I was like, he wants to my podcast. I was pumped. So I haven't been taking anybody because unless they reach out, because I'm kind of in that spot too, where I'm trying to let it, I banked a bunch of episodes when I was going through everything. Yeah. Now they're all kind of like airing as it goes, which is good. Cause I think there's a lot of good interviews and content. So I can't wait to, for people to see what's to come. And plus I have that other stuff coming out, coming soon. Little Chavo Big China coming. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But check out the links below. Support the podcast. Support my guests and everything else that's coming soon. I never announce next week's guest because sometimes I don't know, and this is one of those cases. So no idea who's next week. Well, what's that?
It could be anyone.
It could be anybody. It could literally be anybody. It might. What if we do back-to-back?
It's just the next 3 episodes are all Max Zero episodes.
Could you imagine? That'd be great. It'd be like you would be like I'd be like your CC, but in the podcast world, like just every episode is just
every episode. We're just you know it's going to be Max fighting that lanky man.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Here's some music by the Converse Kid. Once again, check all the links below to support ABJ. People who make my merchant, my links, my merch, as well as the people who do the amazing things like the intro, outro music, and all that. Check out the Ben Frank Connect and everywhere you can find them. And we'll see you next time on the ABJ Podcast.
Thanks for watching this presentation. Like, share, and subscribe for more.